Hey everybody, hey Mateo. Welcome back to Young Engineers of Today. I hope you had a good weekend and hope you're ready to continue with cybersecurity because we're going to be doing something a little bit different and I think pretty cool today. We're going to skip over Internet of Things for now. We'll pop back to that after we've done a little bit of this right here in front of us. What is this, you might ask? Well, this is called Over the Wire. Over the Wire is it's like a set of tutorials on computer security, but set in like a puzzle-like game-like format kind of a thing. Um, I like it, but then again, I like stuff like this, so, take it with a grain of salt. But I think that you guys might actually enjoy it as well because it's a good way to just sort of familiarize yourself with not only cybersecurity, but terminal commands, navigation with things like SSH, and just general sort of network connection and stuff like that. Now, over the wire, you'll be fine. Over the wire is separated into two distinct, let's say, zones. We've got war games and we've got war zone. We are only going to be doing the war games. We are not going to be doing the war zone. The reason for that is the war games is a set of puzzles and things like that you're just basically poking around a server and messing about. Warzone is PvP. That is to say, you will be poking around on computers that aren't yours and that aren't created by Over the Wire. That is to say, other people's computers. It's a little bit different than that. It's a bit more simulated and everything. But regardless, we're going to avoid the war zone, and not deal with that at all because we don't want, the possibility of somebody dinking around with our computer. We're just gonna solely do the war games. Plus, the war games are pretty neat on their own anyway. So, how is Over the Wire structured? Well, let me go ahead and send you this little bit of info on Bandit, which is one of the, I guess, puzzle batteries of Over the Wire. It's the Bandit war game, and it'll teach the basics needed to be able to play other war games. Yeah, planting a virus. It is meant to start out with the absolute basics. That includes opening SSH connections and communicating with other computers and things like that. And that's the thing. It's organized in levels like everything else in Over the Wire. You start at level 0 and you try to beat or finish it. And finishing a level results in information on how to start the next level. The pages for this particular one right here are also organized in, how you would get from one level to the next, but you'll also get some information through the terminal as you're doing it. You will probably run into a number of situations in which you go, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what to do next. And that's okay. That's the whole point. This isn't meant to necessarily be a straightforward walkthrough tutorial of how to, get comfortable with it. I mean, it is, but it's not gonna hold your hand the entire way. It's meant to challenge you in ways. It's meant to make you think and do some research and figure out the answer on your own. That's part of its draw, and that's part of what I think is pretty cool about this, other than the fact that there's nothing that makes you feel like a hacker more than opening up an SSH connection to something and working entirely through the terminal. But that's me. Anyway, so there will be times where you'll be like, I don't know what to do next, and that's okay. You'll probably have some clue as to how to proceed. You'll probably have a little bit of information about how to go forward. You just won't be sure how to actually do it. And that's where doing research and stuff like that comes in. It's okay to Google. And Mr. Dubik actually introduced this to my last class. He said at one point, I know a lot of your instructors and stuff like that, your teachers and, who at school and things go like, don't just Google the answer. And this seems to run a little bit counter to that. Well, there's a reason why they say that, and there's a reason why I'm saying something different now. The reason why they say that is because their intention is to make you understand why the answer is the answer. And just Googling what is the answer to X on Google, Googling it on Google, whatever. Anyway, just Googling that will not necessarily give you the why of the answer. It'll just be like, what is the answer to X? Oh, well, it's Y. And you go, okay, sure. Or Z. You go, okay, yeah, that's fine. But you won't actually know how that answer came to be. So, for instance, you might be looking up. You can Google, oh, I'm looking for the answer to this calculus problem, and you'll find a web page in which somebody asked the exact same problem, and somebody else just provided them with the answer straight up, just the numerical answer. And you go, okay, I've got it. Well, you've got the answer, but you don't know why it's the answer. You have no idea. And that's why Googling can be detrimental. You have to be tactical about your Googling. You have to be sure that you are doing it for a specific reason. And that specific reason is to figure out why it's happening, to point you in the right direction, to give you the tools to figure it out on your own. And a lot of times, you'll find, like, for instance, like you're looking for the answer to a coding problem, you can Google it, you'll get like a Stack Overflow answer, and the person will go into great detail to explain why that's happening, or there'll be a whole page of documentation on a website about this particular aspect of code. That's okay, because then you're spending the time figuring out why the answer is what it is, and then you can apply it later when it's appropriate. Otherwise it's that whole like teach a man to fish thing, give a man a fish thing. If you've never heard that phrase, it's give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you'll feed him for the rest of his life. Same basic idea here. You just feed them the answer. Well, you'll help them out for that particular situation, but not in case they run into something that's the same or very similar later on. But if you teach them why the answer is what it is, then they'll understand more. And in case they run into that situation again, they'll be able to apply their knowledge and actually answer it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Point is, it's okay to Google here, because what we're looking to do is we're looking to figure out why we're doing something. We might know why we want to do something, but we just don't know the specific tool we need in order to do it, in which case Google is also helpful for that kind of thing. Coders use Google a lot. People in IT use Google a lot of times because they already know the answer or why it's doing something. They just don't know how to address that specific problem. You might know that the computer is experiencing failure because it's shutting down because it's overheating. You just might not be sure how to fix the fan or something like that so that the computer will stop overheating. That kind of stuff, it's okay to Google, So yeah, the way this is structured is we are going to SSH into a server elsewhere in the world, and we're going to be completing puzzles. Now we need to get into SSH. What exactly is that? Well, SSH is short for Secure Shell. It is a way of opening an encrypted connection between you and a destination, a server. So it's been actually one of the standards of communication for a long time. It's very widespread. It's a very common way to connect to another computer. If it's not, like web protocol or something like that, and or hypertext transfer protocol, and it's very well established. It's got its drawbacks like anything else. It's text only, and it requires a little bit of trust on both ends. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that bridge when we get there. How do you connect to something on SSH? I guess that's the million-dollar question right now. Show of hands, how many of you are running a Mac or a Linux computer? Okay, show of hands, how many of you are running a Windows computer? Okay, I got two hands that didn't get raised for either. Raise your hand if you're running a Windows computer. All right, raise your hand if you're running a Mac or a Linux computer. Okay, so if you're running a Mac or a Linux computer, your life is already a lot easier because it is built natively into the operating system. SSH functionality already exists on your computer, and you do not need to do anything special other than open up a terminal. If you are not, if you're running a Windows computer, you will need to take a couple of additional steps in order to create an SSH connection. If you're on a Windows computer, we are going to download something called PuTTY. PuTTY is a fantastic program. Let me go ahead and actually open it up. It's putty.org, and I'll go ahead and place this link in the chat box. Boop. PuTTY.org is obviously the download site for PuTTY. It's an open source SSH and Telnet client, as you can see here, developed originally by Simon Tatham, who has created a wonderful set of puzzles that are available for free online. So if you're ever bored, you can go to Simon Tatham's puzzle games or something like that. Anyway, it's open source software. It's very lightweight and easy to use, very straightforward. Basically has all the options you need in order to run a competent SSH session. And it's got a number of features which are pretty useful. But that's the one we're interested in. So you can go ahead and download PuTTY. It'll ask you for, where you want to grab it from, what you want. You guys are probably going to want the MSI, which is obviously the Windows installer, but the MSI is the most straightforward one because it will install on your computer. The other ones are binaries and stuff like that. That involves compiling it, and don't even worry about that. Well, binaries don't necessarily have to be compiled, but anyway. MSI is definitely the most straightforward option. So you've got a 32-bit and a 64-bit option. If you're unsure, 32-bit is your safest bet. However, chances are you guys are running 64-bit computers. It's actually becoming less and less common to actually have a 32-bit strictly chipset on your computer. So we'll go ahead and we'll give the 64-bit installer a try first, because chances are it'll work for you. But go ahead and download it and run the installer. It's a fairly straightforward installer since it's just a Telnet and SSH client. We don't have to worry about setting up a server or anything like that. None of that business. We just want the clients, and that's it. So that's why we're doing PuTTY. So it should be a very easy install process. Download it, run the installer, and then raise your hand once you are done. And I'll give everybody a few minutes. If you have any questions about the installation process or anything like that, obviously throw them into the question box. Be more than happy to help you out with that. I just, from what I remember, it's a pretty simple process, and it's a fairly lightweight program too, so it shouldn't be a whole lot to download either, thankfully. In the meantime, I'm currently pacing around in my living room because I could stand to not be sitting. Also, I'm going to cough directly into the mic. Apologies. All right. Well, hopefully you guys are running the install process right now. For those of you running a Macintosh computer, let me go ahead and walk you through the process of connecting to an SSH, or opening an SSH connection somewhere. So you're going to want to open up the terminal program that exists on a Mac, which is super easy. If you go to the upper right-hand corner, you've got the magnifying glass. You can click on that, and then you can just type in terminal, and you should, like your first hit should just be the terminal application. The icon for it is going to be a window with a caret, like a sideways, a greater than symbol, and and an underscore, and that is going to be your Unix terminal, which because Unix is the underpinning of the Macintosh operating system, much like it is for Linux. It's basically, it's got similar guts to a Linux system. It's got similar things running under the hood, even if it is heavily modified compared to a Linux computer. it's still got a lot of the basics, including the terminal. And the terminal is going to run on a lot of the same Unix/Linux commands, including good old SSH. That is literally the command you need in order to SSH into something. However, it's not the entire command. The SSH command comes with two parts. There is the command SSH, and then there is basically the computer that you want to connect to, denoted either with the host name or the IP address. Just like how we were doing ping and then a space and an IP address, or ping and then space and then a host name, SSH works the same way. It is the SSH command, and then you have to provide a destination. Where do we go? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me go ahead and click on level 0 here in this over-the-wire website. So Bandit level 0, the goal is to log into the game using SSH. The host to which you need to connect to is bandit.labs.overthewire.org. Then it also provides you a username and a password, because that is part of SSH as well. But let's go ahead and apply this. So if you're on a Mac, your command then will be SSH and then a space and then bandit.labs.overthewire.org, just like it is right here. That will be your full command, and you will be able to SSH into the over-the-wire game, specifically the Bandit war game. If you're running PuTTY, the process is a little bit different. So let me go ahead and bring up PuTTY so I can show you how it works. So once you open PuTTY, this is what you're looking at. You're looking at this introductory window that has a whole bunch of stuff going on, it seems like, but it's really actually not that bad, because most of this stuff you're not even going to touch unless you are familiar enough with PuTTY that you want to start messing around with some of the additional options. We're just interested in what it defaults to, which is the session category. See, if I click on session, I'm here. If I click on logging, I go elsewhere, but I can click back to session to be here. We've got basic options for your PuTTY session. You want to specify the destination that you want to connect to. We got a connection type, and then we got load, save, or delete a stored session. This down here, the load, save, or delete a stored session, this is just because you might, I don't know, for your job, have to SSH into a server, who knows, multiple times a day. So you might want to save the connection information just so you can just double click on the saved session down here and automatically connect to it without you having to re-enter all the stuff that you need to all the time forever. That's all done up here. Host name, port, and connection type. As you can see, we've got a whole bunch of different connection types. You guys, I'm pretty sure, are too young for this. You're definitely too young for this. But Telnet used to be a big deal. I remember in elementary school when we first discovered MUDs, which are text-based MMOs. By opening up a command line at one of the school computers and telnetting to a specific IP address, you could start playing an MMO in the terminal at school. And of course, because all of this stuff was still fairly new to a lot of people, including your elementary school teachers, they didn't know that you were doing it, which was always great fun when you were very young. It should be said that if you're ever interested in that sort of thing, MUDs still exist to this day. There are still places where you can telnet or SSH into them, and there are a whole bunch of other people connected at the same time, and you guys can play an MMO, a very lightweight MMO, through something like PuTTY. And it'll be completely free to play, you know. Well, for the most part, some of them do ask for money in order to play them and have subscriptions and things like that. But most of them are free to play. You know, and if you don't have like a beefy rig that can handle, you know, I don't know, like Guild Wars or WildStar or something like that, but you really want that MMO experience, well, you can you know, play a MUD. But you know, your experience may vary, your tastes may differ, that may not be your cup of tea, that's totally fine. I just wanted to make you guys aware of it. Anyway, Telnet and SSH are exactly the same thing. The only difference is SSH is a secure encrypted connection, whereas Telnet is not. But let's look at this other stuff. You got port 22. Port 22, that's fine. We're going to keep it that way. Port 22 is the default port for SSH connections. And most places that you're going to try to SSH into are going to be port 22. That is because, it's generally a reserved port for that sort of thing. It's, easy to remember, easy to keep. The fact that it's standardized across different servers and things like that is great for people who are trying to connect from the outside. The only reason it might be different is because somebody's maybe trying to hide their port from outside SSH connections, which is just another layer of protection. You can make it so that like you can't actually SSH in on port 22. You can forward a port to 22, but from a person connecting from the outside, they won't be able to connect to port 22. They'll have to connect to whatever port you forwarded to port 22. Like it could be like 2560 or something like that, and so they'll have to basically, it's like not knowing where the front door to your house is. That is in essence what's going on there and why they do that. If you hide the front door to your house, you make it a lot harder for people to get in. Anyway, so port 22 is what we want to keep. Host name, well, this is where we're going to put bandit.labs.overthewire.org. And that's that. Once that's done, we can just click open. And then you're going to get a window that pops up that says, hey, do you want to accept this certificate? Like, where this is a different host and stuff like that. I didn't get it because I've connected to this before. You're probably going to get it. That's fine. To extend this house analogy a little bit, let's say not only have you hidden the front door, but you only give the key to people that you trust. Obviously, your door is going to be locked, so you're going to need people to unlock the door with their key. But everyone that you accept a connection from, you can choose to give them a key to your apartment. That's basically what this certificate is. When two computers first connect to one another in an SSH session, they exchange certificates. The reason why your computer is sending you this message right now is because you've never connected to this service before, and thus you do not have a certificate from them. If you did, it would check that certificate on file and go, oh, hey, yeah, this is exactly the same certificate as the one you gave me. Like, you're good, go ahead. And it would automatically accept the connection on the computer side. Almost. There's one more step to the process, which is the username and password, which is like if they came up with a key and unlocked one bolt on the door, and then you went, what's the password? And they went, I don't know, like engineering. And you went, okay, and then you unlock the deadbolt and let them in. That's like the second part of the process. But the first part is that certificate exchange, which is why your computer's freaking out right now, is because you've never connected to them before, and the server just gave you a strange certificate, and your computer is like, should I take this? In which case you can say yes. You can say, yeah, that's totally fine. Go ahead and accept this certificate because we know what we're connecting to. However, in the future, you want to be careful about that because certificates are a two-way street. You've sent them a certificate as well. Not only that, but now that you've accepted their certificate, they basically have free reign to be connected to you. Now this is going to close network connection because I sat there idle for long enough, but they have free reign to be connected to you. So this is not likely, but I mean, it wouldn't happen with this, which is why we're saying it's okay to accept a certificate. But in the future, you could SSH to somebody, take their certificate and accept it, and then later on, they can open up an SSH connection if your computer accepts SSH connections. They could show you their certificate, and because you've accepted it in the past, the computer goes, everything's okay here, and then they have an open connection to your computer when maybe you don't necessarily want it. So in general, you want to be sure that you're only accepting certificates from places that you know are going to be safe to accept certificates from. In this case, it's okay. But it is just another layer of one of those security, measures. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and reopen my PuTTY session. Now we're at this point. We've exchanged certificates. Everything's okay so far, but they need a username and a password. Thankfully, under Bandit level 0, it tells us that the username is Bandit0 and the password is Bandit0. So let's go ahead and type that in. Bandit0, So far, so good. I'm going to start typing here, and nothing's happening. But don't worry, my computer hasn't frozen. This is actually another security measure that exists. This is a physical security measure. So let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and type in Bandit 0, and nothing's changed, but I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to go, hey, everything's okay. You're logged in now. Now, the reason why the cursor hasn't moved is because, let's say, even, it just started showing asterisks, like it does when you log into like Windows or something like that. Yeah, you select yes. Correct. Let's say it just shows a bunch of asterisks. Well, somebody could be looking over your shoulder, right? You type in your password, even though it's showing a bunch of asterisks, that person knows exactly how long your password is now. Think about it. Let's say we had somebody who was trying to, I don't know, hack into your account or something like that, and they had some brute force password cracker that went through every possible permutation of characters. If they knew exactly how long your password was, all they have to do is just run through every possible permutation of characters for that length. If they don't know, your password could be 2 characters long. It could be 1,000,000 characters long. I mean, it won't be 2 characters long or 1,000,000 characters long, but it could be, theoretically speaking, in our hypothetical universe here. More than likely, it's going to be somewhere between 6 and 15 characters. And that increases the number of permutations that they have to run through, because now they have to run through all the possible 6-character permutations, then all the possible 7-character permutations, then all the possible 8-character permutations, 9-character permutations, so on and so forth, all the way up to 15. And now you're talking about orders of magnitude larger and longer in time to do that. Like, heat death of the universe is going to happen before they're able to brute force your password open. However, you reduce the amount of time it takes for them to do it significantly if they know how long your password is. So that's just another security measure that's put into place. It doesn't show the cursor moving so that they don't know how long it is. Anyway, so now we're in here. Now, the nice thing about, well, one of the other things that this is meant to do is this is meant to teach you sort of Unix-based file system commands and things like that. So what I'm going to do is figure out what exactly is here. I can do that just by typing ls and hitting enter. And that is the Unix command for showing the contents of the current directory we're in. In fact, we can pwd to print the working directory. And if we wanted to, we could change directory. Wait, I believe it's dir. Anyway, we could navigate through directories and stuff like that later on. That's another thing that it teaches you. But this is meant to get you familiarized with Unix commands. So I hit ls and enter, and it pops up with one thing, readme. That's it. There is nothing else in the folder we're in than a single readme file. That's it. So let's check it out. Let's spell it correctly. I'm going to type readme, and it's going to go, I don't know what you're talking about, because the way we do things in the terminal, again, is we enter in a command, and then if applicable, we enter in a target or targets. And then if applicable, we use options as well, like, anyway, that's another thing for later. But the important thing is we need, the terminal runs on commands, just like anything else. It's happening in our operating system as well. It's just, it's been abstracted far enough that we don't really think about it. We don't have to tell the computer what to do with a text file. It automatically assumes that we want to open it in our default text editing program when we double click on it, which is kind of the same thing as just typing in readme, except there's a lot of assumption and fancy programming work that goes into that whole thing. That doesn't exist on the terminal. We have to be very explicit with what we do on the terminal. So the command to read a text file is cat, C-A-T. Now, if I remember correctly, and I could very well not be, it's short for concatenate, which is basically a fancy word for add. The idea being we are adding the contents of this text file to the terminal output. That's all we're doing, is we're just saying, hey, take the contents of this text file and output it to the terminal. So what are we going to cat? We're going to cat readme. Cat space readme. Hit enter, and we get this line of gibberish there. BO J9 JBB UNN FKTD 7800 PSQO LTUT MC 3MY1. Huh? What? What is that? Well, that is, we don't know. But that is the contents of the text file. Like if I were to, and don't worry about how I'm doing this, but if I were to open up a text editor, we can see that that's all that's contained within that text file. That's it. Well, if I go over here to level 0 to level 1, as you can see, level goal, the password for the next level is stored. What do you mean password not working? What are you typing in for both of them? Like type exactly what you're typing into the question box for both of them. Is it saying access denied? Like in the terminal output, or are you getting a pop-up message or what? Permission denied. And this is a terminal output message, right? Okay. That might be, hold on, because I think, yeah. So that's something on your end, because access denied is the output that's put out by Bandit. So I'm not sure what that is. It could be that your computer is refusing an SSH connection for any number of reasons. It could be that it automatically denies certificates from outside sources. Yeah. I'll spend some time researching that between now and Wednesday, and we'll get you up and running. Because that's not necessarily something that can just be easily fixed. Semtex 2? And what about? Okay. Is there anything other than permission denied which is being displayed on the screen? Permission denied, connection closed. Oops, okay. Yeah, I'll have to spend some time researching that, because there could be a few different things that are preventing you from being able to open up an SSH connection. But yes, So to continue on here, this, according to Bandit level 0, is the password for the next level. So they gave us a password here, and we'll just copy that to the clipboard. Yeah, Black Sun is one of the wait, what? You get that notice? Oh, you get that notice after you or before you enter the password. Anyway, this is going to be the password for the next level, which is Bandit 1. So let me go ahead and duplicate the session. And now we're going to type in Bandit 1. And then in PuTTY, right-click by default is paste. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste the password in there, hit enter, and boom. Now we're in Bandit 1, and we know this because Bandit 1 at Melinda as opposed to Bandit 0 at Melinda. And this is just, all I did was I just did a very quick way of opening up the same connection. I just hit duplicate session, and what it did is it opened up a new SSH connection to the same address. Very, very easy way to do that. So if we go here, the password for the next level is stored in a file called dash located in the home directory. So if we print the working directory, so we have to go up one level. PWD, by the way, is to print working directory. If we hit ls, we get that dash. So if we cat dash, we can't do it. So now we're dealing with something. Dash is a reserved character. It's used for options and things like that on commands. So naming something a dash can be annoying, but it's fixable. We can actually use something called an escape character. Notice how I put a / in front of that dash. The / is letting the terminal know. Whoops. Is it a backslash? Why is this not boo? Okay. That's what it is. That's not an escape character anyway. I'm a dingus. / is part of the file system. And that's why I linked you guys to this this over the wire thing, because it also gives you some helpful reading material so that you can spend some time learning as well. So this is not actually an escape character / that's part of the file system. Of course it is. I was wrong about that. It's actually the / is the escape character, but that's not the correct way to go about it. What we need to do is we need to be very explicit about what we're reading, and so we're going to take advantage of that. So we're going to hit cat period / and then a minus, a dash. And we get another password. Now, why does the period work? Well, this has to do with the way that Unix file systems work. There is a couple of shortcuts which relate to relative position in the file system. So if we wanted to change directory or something like that, notice I can hit change directory and then 2 periods and a /. I'm not going to do that because I don't think we have permission to go up a file level. But we can do this. Nothing's changed. In fact, if we print working directory again, we're in the same location. That is because a single period represents the directory that we are currently in. So, for example, let me go ahead and open up my Windows Explorer. As you can see, let's go to Android and then Android Studio, and then binaries. So as you can see, we got a whole bunch of stuff here. C program files, Android, Android Studio, binaries, or bin, bin. When I type in period and then a forward slash here, that means the same thing as where we currently are. A double period, let me see if I actually have permission to do this. I do. A double period represents one level up. So C program files, Arduino, or Android, Android Studio binaries is the single period. C program files, Android, Android Studio, one file level up is the double period. And in fact, this is all relative. So I can, if, we're at the home level, so we can't. But if we weren't at the home level, we could, hit CD double period forward slash again, and we'd be taken up one file level, for instance, to Android. We could do it again and be taken up one file level, for instance, to program files, and then to C, and this PC, and so on and so forth. So these are called relative indicators, relative file locations, things like that. And they just simply mean either the same level or one level above. So what actually is happening here is we're saying to concatenate or cat a file, and it's going to be in this directory. The forward slash is the same thing as the backslash that exists here. So like this is C backslash. This is a backslash because it's Windows. This is a forward slash because it's Unix. So look in this directory for a file called just a single dash. And that's where we got this output from. Hey, that worked. Okay. And that's simply all that means. It'll make more sense when we're working with things that have actually useful names. But let me go ahead and duplicate the session again because we got the password for Bandit 2. So Bandit 2, right-click to paste. Oops. It's because I accidentally hit an additional key when I hit enter. And now we're in Bandit 2. So hopefully this is making a little bit of sense to you. So basically these are sort of, they're not like crazy complex right now, but they get more complex as time goes on. So as you can see here, the password for the next file is stored in a file called spaces in this file name located in the home directory. Now this is teaching you how to deal with spaces in this file name. So if we cat and then we start hitting, we can also do that. We can start typing this. This won't work. We can't just do this because it says cat spaces, no such file or directory, cat in, no such file or directory, cat this, no such file or directory, cat file name, no such file or directory. That's because how this interpreted it is we are catting, we're using cat on 4 separate files because we can do that with cat. Cat is flexible like that. However, we need to explain to it that it is simply one file called spaces in this file name. This is one of those annoying things about Unix-based systems and working through the terminal. The way we do this is now we actually use the escape character, which is the backslash. So the backslash lets us know that this is not actually going to be interpreted as a terminal command. It's going to be interpreted as what are you lost on? Were you able to get in? Okay, no, I just wanted you to follow along with what we're doing right now. Not necessarily like, yeah, but basically, oh, you can't get in either? What's it telling you? Access denied. Are you trying to get into Bandit 0 or one of the later ones? Bandit 2? Okay, make sure that you've copied the correct password. One of the things you can do is you can highlight stuff in PuTTY, and then if you hit the Insert key on your keyboard, it will be copied to your clipboard, and then you can right-click to paste it. So as you can see right here, cat file name, no such file or directory. So if you have the previous session open with the password for Bandit 2, you can highlight it and then hit Insert on your keyboard in order to add it to your clipboard. Because one of the things is with right-clicking and then copying all to clipboard, it copies the entire terminal output to your clipboard. As you can see over here, whole bunch of stuff here. This was far more information than we actually needed. We just needed this one line right here. So that's why I copied it into Notepad, so that I could actually just copy this one line and paste it back into the terminal, into PuTTY. But that was just meant to show you that there's that command. But also you can highlight something and then, oh, okay, that's fine. Well, if you can get back into Bandit 1 and open up that file again, actually, you know what? Since that'll just save you some time. Rather than having to walk through that whole process again. But yeah, so backslash is an escape character. It's letting the terminal know that, hey, this is not going to be part, like, we're actually using a reserved character, in this case the space, for something that it's not normally used for. In this case, what it's doing is it's treating the space as an actual space as opposed to a special character for the cat command. So if I do this, how it's going to interpret it is it's going to get rid of these backslashes and it's going to treat this whole thing as one file name with spaces in it. So we hit enter, boom, we get this output, which is the next password. Now, I'll teach you another trick. So if I hit cat and I start typing a name, autocomplete exists. I can hit the tab key on my keyboard and it automatically fills it with whatever file name starts with what we started to type. So I started to type spaces, I hit tab and it automatically completes spaces in this file name. So that actually can save you a lot of typing in the terminal as well. But yeah, there you go. This is our password for Bandit 3. So I'm going to hit insert in order to put it on my keyboard or in my clipboard. We can right click to duplicate session and connect as Bandit 3 and paste the password. And now we're in Bandit 3. And this is how, this is basically how Over the Wire progresses. Now, things are going to get more and more complex as you go on. You're going to have to learn more and more concepts and become familiar and comfortable with more and different terminal commands. Like, you know, you're going to be using more stuff than just cat later on. But that is essentially the basics of Over the Wire. So hopefully that made a little sense. I know I went through it fairly quickly. I imagine at some points there were some leaps that I made in my mind because of information that I have that you guys don't necessarily have. Obviously, let me know if that happens in the future. We'll spend a little bit more time on Wednesday going through some more of these, you know, and making it a little bit further and Over the Wire, because we'll also talk about part of the reason why I'm helping walk you guys through this as well is because this is also a good tutorial for the terminal, like I've said a million times now. And so this also has the dual purpose of getting you guys more comfortable with the terminal, which is something that is going to be a very useful skill in any sort of tech-based job. So I want to help walk you guys through that as well. Plus, it's helpful for me. It helps refresh my memory as far as these things are concerned. Anyway, that is going to do it for today, though. If you didn't understand everything, that's okay. I will be posting this video up on YouTube um, either later on tonight or early-ish tomorrow, and we'll continue on Wednesday. You're more than welcome to watch through the video on YouTube in order to basically review everything, and hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense on like the second time through or something like that. And yeah, we'll I think that'll do it for today.